This is ATN International News. First, let's take a look at the headlines. Tabun declared election winner with 95% of vote. Military-led governments reject UN call for peace. Voters called for less drama in Harris-Trump. Let's go for a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back. We begin with Africa. Prominent Egyptian archaeologist and former Antiquities Minister Zahi Hawass has launched a petition for the return to Egypt of the pharaonic bust of Queen Nefertiti from the News Museum in Berlin. ATN learned that Nefertiti's famous painted limestone bust was uncovered at Tel Av Amana, around 300 kilometers south of Cairo, in 1912 by a German archaeological mission, which shipped it to Berlin the following year. Amana was the short-lived capital of Nefertiti's husband, the 18th dynasty pharaoh Akhenaten, who reigned until about 1335 BC. Akhenaten, called the heretic king, was notorious for promoting the worship of the god Aten to the exclusion of Egypt's other gods. His reign also introduced a radical change in Egyptian art. In his petition launched on Saturday, Hawass asked for the return of the bust, saying it was removed from Egypt illegally after its discovery. Hawass said he is not calling for the repatriation of artifacts taken out of Egypt legally. His campaign is focused on repatriating three main beautiful objects, including the bust of Nefertiti, the Rosetta Stone, and the Dendera Zodiac. However, officials at Berlin's News Museum were not immediately available for comment. Kenya's High Court has temporarily blocked a proposal deal for India's Adani Group to lease the country's main airports for 30 years in exchange for expanding it. Court's documents showed. In a joint application, the Law Society of Kenya, the country's main bar association, and the Kenya Human Rights Commission told the court on Monday that the country could independently raise the $1.85 billion required to upgrade the airports in the capital, Nairobi. Law Society of Kenya and Kenya Human Rights Commission said the alleged 30-year lease of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, East Africa's largest aviation hub, were unaffordable, threatened job losses, was a fiscal risk, and did not offer taxpayers value for money. Court documents published by the Kenyan Human Rights Commission on the website showed. The Kenya High Court has granted a request for leave to challenge the lease of JKIA to Adani, while also prohibiting any person from implementing or acting on the privately initiated Adani proposal over JKIA. The Kenyan Aviation Workers Union called for a strike over the proposed deal. Kenya's government has said the airport is operating above capacity and needs modernizing, but that it is not for sale and that no decision has been made on whether to proceed with what it calls a proposed public-private partnership to upgrade the site. Sudan's military-led government has rejected a call by a UN fact-finding mission for the deployment of an international force to protect civilians from the country's ongoing civil war. Sudan's warring parties had committed harrowing human rights violations against civilians, the United Nations reported. Thousands of people have been killed and nearly 8 million displaced since conflicts broke out in April 2023 between the army and the paramilitary rapid support forces. The two had jointly staged a coup but then fell out, plunging Sudan into a civil war. The fact-finding mission also called for an arms embargo. The United Arab Emirates is accused of supporting the rapid support forces with money and guns, which it denies, while Saudi Arabia is said to have close ties with the Sudanese government. Sudan's foreign ministry said the government rejected the recommendations of the fact-finding mission in their entirety, further describing the UN Human Rights Council as a political and illegal body, and said the mission's recommendations were a flagrant violation of their mandate. Meanwhile, the head of the World Health Organization has called on the world to wake up and help Sudan out of the nightmare it's living through. News agency reported. Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus was speaking during a visit to Port Sudan, the main hub for aid agencies and headquarters of the government, after it was driven out of the capital, Khartoum, by the Rapid Support Forces. Ethiopia's Prime Minister has warned that anyone planning on invading his country should think 10 times before doing so, because he said any attack would be repelled. Abiy Ahmed's comments come amid rising tensions with Somalia and Egypt. Somalia has criticized Abiy's government's maritime pact with Somaliland as aggression and has forgiven closer military ties with Egypt. Somaliland, which separated from Somalia over 30 years ago, is considered part of Mogadishu's territory. Egypt is planning to send troops to Somalia following a military pact between Ethiopia and Egypt. Egypt has been involved in a dispute over Ethiopia's dam construction. Ethiopian President Abiy stated that Ethiopia has no intention of creating conflict, but emphasizes the country's defense capabilities. Somalia is angered by Ethiopia's decision to reach a deal with Somaliland for a port, which has angered the region. Somaliland has also said that it could lease a section of the coast to Ethiopia's navy in exchange for Mr. Abiy's government, becoming the first to recognize it as an independent state. Tensions in the region escalated last month after 2 Egyptian C-130 military planes arrived in Somalia's capital to mark the strengthening of ties. Egypt plans to send 5,000 soldiers to join a new African Union force in Somalia at the end of the year, with another 5,000 deployed separately. The force has been in Somalia since 2007 to help fight Al-Shabaab, a jihadist group. Ethiopian troops are part of the force, but Somalia withdraw next year. Egypt accuses Ethiopia of threatening its supply of water from the River Nile following the construction of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Former partner of Ugandan athlete Rebecca Cheptegei, who is accused of killing her by dousing her in petrol and setting her on fire, has died in hospital from burns sustained during the attack. Kenya's newspaper reported on Tuesday. Cheptegei, 33 years old, who competed in the marathon at the Paris Olympics, suffered burns to more than 75% of her body in the September 1 attack and died 4 days later at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret, Kenya. Her alleged killer died on Monday night in the same hospital's intensive care unit, according to reports. She is the third elite sportswoman to be killed in Kenya since October 2021. Her death has put the spotlight again on domestic violence in the East African country. Colombia, the host of the COP16 Biodiversity Conference, recorded the deadliest number of environmentalists and land rights defenders in 2023, with 79 killed, according to UK advocacy group Global Witness. The highest number of such killings since 2012, with Latin America leading the global 196 deaths. The findings on Colombia are a sharp contrast to promises from the government of President Gustavo Petro, who took office in 2022 and has pledged to end the country's 60-year conflict and pursue environmental justice for communities. Peace processes with various armed groups, which are sometimes implicated in environmentalist killings, have faltered, and though deforestation fell to a 23-year low last year, the Environment Ministry has warned of an increase in 2024. Colombia's government criticized its ranking on the global witness list, stating it is dishonorable to face serious socio-ecological conflicts linked to drug trafficking, illicit economies, and armed conflict reconfiguration. Colombia was also the deadliest country for environmentalists in 2022, according to Global Witness, when at least 60 were killed. The figure is very embarrassing for the U.S. in the country, said Astrid Torres, coordinator for Somos Defensores, a Colombian human rights group. Torres said the issue was not just the responsibility of the sitting government, but also of state institutions, such as prosecutors and local authorities. Upcoming presidential debates between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris is crucial in American politics, as it could potentially determine the outcome of the 2024 presidential campaign. The race is still a statistical death hit, with 28% of likely November voters needing to know more about the Californian. Even small shifts in the electorate's mood could be the difference between victory and defeat for the candidates. Ms. Harris faces challenges in the Philadelphia showdown, as she must defend the Biden administration's record and explain why she renounced liberal policies during her unsuccessful 2020 bid. She faces criticism from her Republican opponent and may be viewed as politically expedient. She has struggled with answering pointed questions under pressure and has resisted media interviews, which could damage her electoral prospects. The showdown presents an opportunity for her to flesh out her positions. Trump's debates with Hillary Clinton present an opportunity to regain campaign momentum after Democrats dominated headlines. His issues, particularly immigration and trade, have brought popular support. However, his uneven performance in the June debates with Biden may be a potential pitfall, as Harris is expected to present a more nimble opponent. Trump's lack of clarity on child care policies during a New York forum could benefit Democrats. He must be cautious when sparring with the vice president, the second woman and first of color, as domineering or belittling could damage his support among female voters. The candidates have prepared differently for the debate. Trump has held informal sessions and reviewed his positions on key issues, including a town hall forum hosted by a media agency. Tuesday's debates could set the political environment for the last 2 months of the 2024 presidential race, but also provide the last chance for the candidates to reach voters in key battleground states. U.S. prosecutors in California have charged Dallas Erin Humber and Matthew Robert Allison with running a white supremacist group on Telegram, which urged terror attacks to spark a race war in a 37-page indictment on Monday. In 2022, a man and woman, Allison and Humber, took over Telegram for a leader was arrested on terrorism charges. The group promoted white supremacist accelerationism and disseminated videos and posts promoting high-value targets, including U.S. senator and judge officials. Officials claim they incited real attacks and urged members to follow through with their plans. And prosecutors allege multiple planned and actual attacks in the past years could be tied to Telegram, including an October 2022 shooting in Slovakia at an LGBTQ bar where 2 people were killed, and a stabbing attack in Turkey. Both Ms. Mohamba and Mr. Allison face 15 federal counts, including solicitation for a murder of a federal official, solicitation for a hate crime, and conspiracy to provide material support for terrorists. Humber of Elk Grove, California, and Allison of Boise, Idaho were arrested on Friday, the Associated Press reported. It is unclear if either has an attorney. Late last month, Telegram's chief Executive Pavel Durov was arrested under a warrant for offenses related to his app. That investigation is reportedly about a lack of moderation, with Mr. Durov accused of failing to take steps to curb criminal uses of Telegram. The app is accused of failure to cooperate with law enforcement over drug trafficking, child sexual content, and fraud. Telegram previously denied having insufficient moderation. Former fashion mogul Peter Nygaard has been sentenced to 11 years for sexually assaulting 4 women in Toronto from the 1980s to 2005. Despite denying the charges, his defense team argued for a sentence of less than 2 years. Nygaard faces separate charges in Montreal, Winnipeg, and the U.S. Canadian clothing designer and manufacturer David Nygaard has been sentenced to 11 years in prison with over 6 years remaining. He was accused of using his wealth and power to commit for sexual assaults, systematically assaulting and trafficking women in the U.S. and Canada. Despite his estimated worth of $700 million, he was found guilty of sexually assaulting 4 out of 5 women. Women were lured into a Toronto office by fashion industry entrepreneur Nygaard, who then raped or sexually assaulted them. The victims, aged 16 to 28, suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and distrust of men. The assault left them feeling deeply saddened by the lack of love in their lives. Shannon Moroney, a therapist working with 4 accusers of sexual assault, read statements they wrote outside court after sentencing. Several claim the sentence has given them closure and confidence. Crown Prosecutor Nibal Gulwala requested a 15-year sentence, while his lawyer Gary Wiebe argued for less time due to his deteriorating health. Nearly 20 people submitted letters supporting Nygaard, including former businesses, partners, ex-girlfriends, dentists, and pastors. The Canadian lawyer, David Nygaard, has been in custody since his arrest in late 2020. He is currently facing charges for sexual assault in Montreal and Winnipeg, involving a woman allegedly held captive and raped in 1993. Nygaard has denied the charges and sued his accuser for defamation in 2023. Once his Canadian cases are completed, he is expected to be extradited to the U.S., where authorities claim he engaged in a decades-long pattern of criminal conduct involving at least a dozen victims. A class action lawsuit has also been filed against him by 57 women in the U.S. Jury selection for the federal trial of 3 former police officers involved in Tyre Nichols' fatal assault in Memphis begins on Monday. They have pleaded not guilty and may be called to testify against them. The death of Mr. Nichols in Memphis, a predominantly black city, sparked protests against police brutality and calls for reform. The 5 black men charged in the case are also black, highlighting broader issues in policing black communities. Video footage from the defendant's encounter with Mr. Nichols shows him pulled over for alleged reckless driving, then severely beaten. The victim later expressed his grief for his mother. Memphis police and fire department officers were fired following a homicide incident involving a man named Nichols. The city is currently in a federal trial, charged with unlawfully depriving Nichols of his rights, failing to intervene and indifference to his medical needs, as well as conspiring to cover up the incident. They have pleaded not guilty. If convicted, they could face life in prison or the death penalty. The men also await a trial date on related state charges. 2 ex-detectives, Emmett Martin and Desmond Mills, have both pleaded guilty over their involvement in Mr. Nichols' death since a grand jury indictment last September. Memphis residents are expected to attend a trial for former colleagues of former Memphis police officer Mr. Nichols, who is currently suing the city for $550 million. Jurors will be chosen from a pool of 200 residents. Schools in several Kentucky counties closed as the search for a man suspected of shooting into vehicles along a major highway, injuring 5 people, continued into a 3rd day. The suspect, Joseph A. Couch, 32 years old, was charged on Monday with multiple counts of attempted murder and assault. After the incident on Saturday evening, police believe the attacker fled to a remote, rugged area about 9 miles from the city of London in southeastern Kentucky. The Laurel County Sheriff's Office said that it had recovered silver Honda SUV and an AR rifle authorities believe was used in the attack, although the suspect may have other firearms. Police also found a phone they believe belongs to Mr. Couch, but the battery had been removed. An arrest warrant was filed for Mr. Couch, charging him with 5 counts of attempted murder and 5 counts of first-degree assault. Hours before the shooting, Mr. Couch legally bought the rifle and about 1,000 rounds of ammunition, said police. The shootings began at about 6:30 p.m. local time on Saturday. Police initially said 9 vehicles were hit by gunfire along Interstate 75, a busy north-south route. They later increased that number to 12 cars. The shots were fired from a ledge on a cliff overlooking the highway. 5 people were wounded and some had very serious injuries, officials said, including one person who was shot in the face. The suspect, who previously served in the National Guard, was reportedly shot in a wooded area near exit 49 on 175. The suspect, who has not yet been identified, was described as a random attack rather than a targeted one. The incident occurred in London, which has about 8,000 residents and is near the Daniel Boone National Forest. Local businesses and churches remained closed while the manhunt continued. Authorities have warned residents to be vigilant and lock their doors while the suspect is at large. You're watching the Atlantic News and you're watching the international news at Atlantic Television Network. We'll be back after this break. Please do stay with us. Welcome back. We are open for adverts, placements, bookings, and commercials. And you can connect with us and watch us on ATN Socials, Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok at Atlantic TV Network 1, X formerly Twitter at Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website, www.atlanticnetwork.tv. And now to the rest of our stories. Republicans criticized 2021 U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, blaming Biden's administration, while Democrats argue it's biased and Trump negotiated with the withdrawal. The House report comes after years of investigation into the U.S. pullout. The Biden-Harris administration's withdrawal from Afghanistan led to violence and suicide attacks, killing 170 Afghans and 13 U.S. soldiers. Representative Michael McCall of Texas claims the chaos was preventable and the White House was guilty of a dereliction of duty in prioritizing optics over security. The report says that the administration chose to evacuate non-combatants far too late and had too few personnel and supplies to carry out an effective evacuation. It says that the withdrawal once again created the conditions for terrorist groups to operate in Afghanistan and that the Biden administration spread bad information as part of a cover-up. McCall's reports, deemed partisan, was criticized by the Biden White House and congressional Democrats for cherry-picked facts, inaccurate characterizations, and pre-existing biases. President Biden inherited an untenable position due to the bad deal made with the Taliban to exit Afghanistan by May 2021. She defended ending the longest war, stating the nation is stronger today. House Democrats criticized Republicans for avoiding Trump-related facts. American actor James Earl Jones, best known for his role as Darth Vader in Star Wars, has passed away at the age of 93. Jones, who starred in numerous films, won 3 Tony Awards, 2 Emmys, a Grammy, and an honorary Oscar in 2011. He became the second black man nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor in 1971. Following Sidney Poitier, Mark Hamill, who played Vader's son Luke Skywalker, expressed his condolences. He died earlier on Monday morning surrounded by his family, Agent Beryl McFession said. James Earl Jones, a renowned actor, has passed away at the age of 86. His legacy includes iconic roles in Star Trek Fields of Dreams and The Lion King. Star Trek actor LeVar Burton, U.S. actor Colman Domingo, Kevin Costner, Oscar-winning actress Octavia Spencer, and other news agencies' tagline voice have all paid tribute to Jones. His voice, characterized by authority, grace, and decorum, will be remembered forever. Born in Mississippi in 1931, Jones developed his famous voice while dealing with a stammer. He portrayed Darth Vader in the original Star Wars film and later in Rogue One and Star Wars. The rise of Skywalker, despite being a different actor, Jones' deep, recognizable voice made him a household name. In 2012, actor Christopher Jones expressed his love for being part of the Darth Vader myth and the cult. He initially made only $9,000 from the first film, considering it a special effects job. However, when the films broke box office records, he was persuaded to rethink his role. Jones also appeared in television, The Simpsons, and Sesame Street, and tackled iconic Shakespeare characters on stage. At least 82 people have now died in Vietnam as a super typhoon which hit on Saturday continues to bring heavy rainfall, landslides, and flooding. Thousands of people were seen stranded on rooftops in some northern provinces. Others posted desperate pleas for help on social media on Tuesday. Typhoon Yagi, Vietnam's most powerful storm in 30 years, has wreaked havoc across the north of the country, leaving 1.5 million people without power. On Monday, footage showed the moment the Phung Chau Bridge in Phu Tho province gave way, plunging several vehicles into the water below. Although it has now weakened into a tropical depression, authorities have warned Yagi will create more disruption as it moves westwards. ATN gathered that the storm, which brought winds of nearly 150 kilometers per hour, has damaged bridges, torn roofs of buildings, damaged factories, and triggered widespread flooding and landslides, leaving 64 people still missing. Authorities have now issued flood and landslide warnings for 401 communes across 18 northern provinces. One-story homes in parts of the Thai Nguyen and Dien Bai provinces were almost completely submerged in the early hours of Tuesday, with residents waiting on the roofs for help. Flooding and landslides have also injured at least 752 people, officials at the Ministry of Agriculture said on Tuesday. Before hitting Vietnam, Yagi left 24 people dead across southern China and the Philippines. Meteorologists say that as the world warms, typhoons can bring higher wind speeds and more intense rainfall, although the influence of climate changes on individual storms is complicated. A busy bridge in northern Vietnam has collapsed in the wake of Super Typhoon Yagi, plunging 10 cars and 2 scooters into the Red River. Deputy Prime Minister Hoc Duc Phuc said on Monday. It is unclear if there were casualties resulting from the collapse of the Phuong Châu Bridge in Phu Tho province. At least 3 people have been rescued and 13 are missing, Mr. Ho said. Vietnam's President Ho Chi Minh has ordered the military to build a pontoon bridge after a powerful storm. Yagi killed at least 59 people and caused landslides and flash floods. The storm has also injured over 240 people and left 1.5 million without power. The 375-meter bridge remains standing, and the country's Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development reported 44 deaths and a newborn baby. Yagi also sunk and swept adrift dozens of fishing boats. On Sunday, search and rescue personnel found 27 people drifting at sea after a dozen fishermen were reported missing. ATN gathered that nearly 50,000 people have been evacuated from coastal towns in Vietnam, with authorities issuing a warning to remain indoors. Schools were temporarily closed in 12 northern provinces, including Hanoi, before hitting Vietnam. Yagi left 24 people dead across southern China and the Philippines. Scientists say typhoons and hurricanes are becoming stronger, more frequent, and staying over land for longer due to climate change. Warmer ocean waters mean storms pick up more energy, which leads to higher wind speeds. A warmer atmosphere also holds more moisture, which can lead to more intense rainfall. Pope Francis has been welcomed in Vanuatu on the coast of Papua New Guinea, where he donned a traditional bed of paradise faded headdress. He came to Vanuatu at the invitation of local missionaries with the Catholic Institute of the Incarnate Word. They, like Pope Francis, the first pontiff from the Americas, are from Argentina. Earlier, he celebrated Mass in the capital, Port Moresby, which was attended by at least 35,000 people. Pope Francis is visiting Papua New Guinea until Monday as part of a tour that first included a stop in Indonesia. He travels next to East Timor, then Singapore, before returning to Rome. Filipino pastor Apollo Quiboloy, known as the appointed son of God, has been arrested in a 2-week standoff with the police officer. The pastor, who claims to have 7 million followers, denies all charges against him. In 2021, the U.S. Department of Justice charged Filipino businessman Quiboloy with sex trafficking, fraud, coercion, and bulk cash smuggling. He forced girls and women to solicit money for a charity and required his female assistants to have sex. After Duterte stepped down, he was charged with child abuse, sexual abuse, and human trafficking. Police have been battling followers of Pastor Quiboloy, a standoff at his 30-hectare compound in Davao for 2 weeks. Quiboloy was found inside the compound's Bible school and arrested despite not surrendering, according to Interior Minister Benhu Abalos. Witnesses provided crucial information. Quiboloy, a pastor in the Philippines, was arrested by the regional police chief and 4 others. The arrest follows a public falling out between the Marcos and Duterte political families. The standoff of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ has occurred as the Marcos and Duterte families have been feuding. The Philippines is not considering extraditing Quiboloy for now, as the U.S. Dutch sought his arrest before Duterte handed power to him. Quibeloy founded the Kingdom of Jesus Christ in Davao in 1985 after hearing God's message according to him. He delivered sermons from his Garden of Eden Restored estate and broadcast them on his own network. Quibeloy also gained political influence by endorsing candidates during elections, a practice common in the Philippines where politics is based on patronage. Junior doctors in India's West Bengal state have vowed to keep up a strike in protest at the rape and murder of a trainee doctor unless their demands are met, defying a Supreme Court's deadline for Tuesday. While demonstrations in other states have been gradually called off after the Supreme Court formed a hospital safety task force, doctors in West Bengal, where the incident happened at the RG Kar Medical College and Hospital in Kolkata, have continued their protests. The West Bengal Junior Doctors Front marched in Kolkata on Tuesday, with junior doctors from several medical colleges in the state lending support to press its demands for justice for the victims and better security at hospitals. The group had said it would consider the court's order on Monday directing protesters to resume work by Tuesday evening only if its demands were tackled by the deadline. Officials from West Bengal's health department told newsmen that the protesters' concerns, including additional CCTV coverage, deployment of female security personnel, adequate lighting, toilets and resting spaces were being addressed. Funds have been released, but it will certainly not meet the deadline of today, said a senior official who did not want to be named because he was not authorized to speak to the media. Protests over the incident spread overseas at the weekend as thousands of Indians staged demonstrations in 25 countries, including the United States and Japan, to demand justice for the woman. Rights activists say the attack provides further evidence of the sexual violence Indian women face, despite tougher laws introduced after a horrific incident of gang rape and murder in the capital, New Delhi, in 2012. A police volunteer has been arrested in connection with the crime, and the former principal of the college has been arrested over accusations of graft. Hundreds of farmers from across Australia held a protest on Tuesday against government farming policies they said were influenced by environmental and animal welfare activists and which were harming their livelihoods. Australia is one of the world's biggest agricultural exporters, and farmers nationwide are increasingly angry with the centre-left Labour government that has sought to ban exports of live ships, restrict water use, and accelerate construction of renewable power and transmission in rural areas. The National Farmers Federation (NFF) President David Jochinke urged farmers to be respected in a rally in Canberra, stating that alternative voices are not the ones setting policy. The government did not send a representative, but the NFF reported over 2,000 attendees. The protest is part of a wave of unrest in Europe and elsewhere aimed at governments imposing environmental regulation that farmers say burdens them with red tape and higher costs, as well as limiting their ability to farm. Federal elections are due in Australia by May next year, and farm lobby leaders say they will try to eject Labour by raising money and targeting marginal seats. Opposition Peter Dutton told the rally he would reverse a ban on live sheep exports, and the opposition agriculture spokesman said he was against water restrictions. Ukraine struck the Moscow region on Tuesday in its biggest drone attack so far on the Russian capital, killing at least one woman, wrecking dozens of homes and forcing around 50 flights to be diverted from airports around Moscow. Russia, the world's biggest nuclear power, said it had destroyed at least 20 Ukraine attack drones as they swarmed over the Moscow region, which has a population of more than 21 million and 124 more over 8 other regions. At least one person was killed near Moscow, Russian authorities said. 3 of Moscow's 4 airports were closed for more than 6 hours and almost 50 flights were diverted. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters that the drone attack was another reminder of the real nature of Ukraine's political leadership, which he said was made up of Russia's enemies. Kyiv said Russia, which sent tens of thousands of troops into Ukraine in February 2022, had attacked it overnight with 46 drones, of which 38 were destroyed. The drone attacks on Russia damaged at high-rise apartment buildings in the Ramenskoye district of the Moscow region, setting flats on fire, residents told reporters. Ukraine has been targeted by drone attacks, with over 70 drones downed in Russia's Bryansk region and tens more in other regions. The Ramenskoye district, with a population of around 250,000 people, has been hit by their attacks. The war has largely been a grinding artillery and drone war along the heavily fortified front line in southern eastern Ukraine. Moscow and Kyiv have both sought to buy and develop new drones, deploy them in innovative ways, and seek new ways to destroy them. Russian President Vladimir Putin has called Ukrainian drone attacks terrorism and has vowed a response. Ukraine claims it has the right to strike back deep into Russia, but Western backers do not want a direct confrontation between Russia and the US-led NATO military alliance. Swiss appeals court has convicted Tariq Ramadan of rape, overturning a 2023 acquittal. Ramadan, a prominent scholar of Islam and grandson of Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood, found Hassan al-Banna will serve a 3-year prison sentence, 2 suspended. He rose to prominence as an academic in the early 2000s, and in 2007 he became a professor of Islamic studies at St. Anthony's College, Oxford. Ramadan challenged Muslims fundamentalists and encouraged dialogue between religions, but was accused by some critics of promoting political Islam. Ramadan was initially accused of rape in 2017 by a French woman, and when that case became public, more women came forward with claims that he had attacked them or made unwanted sexual advances. A Tunisian convert accused Ramadan of raping a woman in Geneva in 2008, leading to his conviction. Ramadan admitted inviting her but denied violence. He faces 5 charges in France and Switzerland. In June, a Paris court ruled Ramadan should be tried for raping 3 women between 2009 and 2016. Ramadan denies charges against him, claiming they are politically motivated and designed to discredit him. His son Sami argues these accusations are a trap. Britain's labour market cooled noticeably last month as job placements fell sharply and pay growth slowed, according to a survey of recruiters on Monday that could bolster the case of interest rate cuts from the Bank of England. The monthly report on jobs from the Recruitment and Employment Confederation trade body and accountants showed permanent job placements dropped at the fastest pace in 5 months. Starting pay growth for permanent staff also fell to a 5-month low, one of the weakest readings since early 2021. John Holt, Employment Confederation's UK chief executive and senior partner, said business confidence continued to fluctuate despite an interest rate cut from the Bank of England last month. The news that while salaries rose last month, it was at the weakest rate since March, could help make the case for more rate cuts when the Monetary Policy Committee meets to decide the future path of interest rates. Holt said. The vast majority of economists polled by Reuters think the Bank of England will wait until November to reduce interest rates again, although financial markets currently show a 1 in 4 chance of rate cut on September 19. Official labor markets on Tuesday are expected to show robust employment growth and a further moderation in pay growth. And that's it for the news for today. Before we go, another look at the major stories. We told you that Tebon declared election winner with 95% of vote. Military-led government rejects UN call for peace. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. You can follow us on all our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Atlantic TV Net, Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, Instagram Atlantic TV Network. Watch us live on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. Peace and progress, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Please stay with us. Business News comes up next.